Welcome back. All right, so quick news of the day video before we get into tonight's two games on the schedule. Some good news for Tampa on the board as well, right? So the NHL is postponing more Canadian games due to the restrictions for fan attendance. So the NHL looking at the amount of money they can make, looking at the amount of money they would make, and saying we'll delay these games till later. Bill Daly also saying that while there's a lot of games that have been delayed, moved back, he still believes they can have an 82-game schedule. They're not worried about it at this point. There's a lot of dates that can get moved around. And so we'll see what ends up happening here. So the Leafs have stopped with their ticket sales for right now until they get a better idea for when they'll be able to have a full building again. Apparently they've done the same with the Raptors. So we'll see if that happens elsewhere. But the good news, too, is that, of course, on the American side of the border, 5 days for asymptomatic is now the isolation period. There are provinces in Canada, too, that are following suit. 5 days for asymptomatic, and then you're out. And again, there's all that debate out there, but the period has been dropped from 10 days to 5. That makes a huge difference from a National Hockey League perspective as well, right? So we'll see when the restrictions are lifted, or when the NHL says, all right, we have to get these games in, and they start putting the Canadian teams' home games back on the schedule. The one thing this does, and I mentioned this in a review earlier today, it does mean that for a team that's really good on the road, one of the Canadian teams that's really good on the road, you might really enjoy this. For Canadian teams that are struggling on the road, this might be a really tough time for them. So we'll see how long these road trips for Canadian teams go, but again, it's definitely a moving target, and we'll see what happens. But for the Islanders, they had, for instance, a Western Canadian swing coming up next week. That is now off the schedule. It's been delayed for later in the year. Now, into injury news. Max Pacioretty, you may already be aware of this. He didn't play today for Vegas, of course. Wrist surgery means that Pacioretty's out indefinitely. It's too bad, because Pacioretty was playing absolutely fantastic since returning from a previous injury, and now wrist surgery it is for Pacioretty. So bad luck for him all around injury-wise this year. He might have been looking at a career high in goals if he'd played all year. But, of course, that just remains what could have been, what might have been, and we'll never really know. Justin Danforth, a pretty impressive fourth liner for Columbus. And again, we've seen a lot of issues with, healthy lineups and everything, and guys getting called into action that we might not otherwise have seen. Danforth has earned his spot, and he's not going to have that spot for the next 6 weeks. He has a sprained MCL, so he will be out for the next 6 weeks for Columbus. It's too bad, because honestly, I've been impressed with him. I think it's a good story. Definitely a late bloomer at the NHL level. I'm always, happy to see guys who are in their late 20s, maybe even early 30s, finally getting their shot at their dream job of playing in the National Hockey League. So hopefully he heals up nicely, and he comes back in 6 weeks' time, and he's good to go. Brendan Gallagher, highly unlikely he plays tomorrow night for the Montreal Canadiens. It's being considered a lower body injury for him. And Drouin should play. Didn't feel well the other day, but he should be good to go tomorrow for the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal still dealing with guys going onto the list, coming off of the list, and so there's going to be more NHL debuts coming up for Montreal. Look at it this way, the Habs are seeing what kind of depth they have in the minors. Again, I think this gives general managers a chance to see players they otherwise wouldn't have seen, and maybe there will be some players who earn themselves a role in the National Hockey League based on what we're seeing this year, who otherwise might not have got that chance. So it's all about trying to find the positives. I do my best to do so as we close out 2021, and 2022 is coming tomorrow. So if you're not ready for it, get ready. If you're watching from the city of Las Vegas, I'm sure you're ready, because parties in Vegas are apparently crazy on New Year's, as is the price of a hotel room on New Year's. I have to throw that out there. Boston's messed with their lines a bit. The Boston Bruins, who have been having problems scoring, and the assumption is people look at the standings, they go, well, Boston's got all these games in hand. Well, clearly they're going to make the playoffs. Recent games make me a little nervous for the Boston Bruins. So what they've done is they've split up their lines. They now have Craig Smith playing on a line with Marchand and Bergeron. So they've moved Pastrnak down to the second line, where he'll be with Haula and Hall. Now, Eric Haula's had problems scoring. Pasternak's not scoring at a rate that he normally does. So we'll see how this works. And Craig Smith, it's been kind of a tough start for him. And then you've got Coyle, who's just been brought out of the protocol list. I'm not talking about who is or isn't in the protocol list, because at this point, It's just ridiculous. It is a ridiculous list. It's there. But Coyle is slated to play with DeBrusk and Foligno, if you believe the lines at practice. So for the Boston Bruins, they are looking to fix things from within right now, which makes sense because apparently trading is no longer a thing. As evidenced by DeBrusk still being on this team, even though we've known for over a year that DeBrusk and Cassidy, or just DeBrusk and the Bruins in general, it just doesn't work. But here we are. And then, ending off on a positive note for Tampa fans, Elliott will be the starter tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Sergachev's going to return as well, which should help them not allow 9 goals again tonight. They're playing against the Rangers, though. The Rangers are capable of putting up a big score. So on the board that's behind here, the Rangers-Tampa game is all set up, and we'll see how things go. But at least having Elliott back means you won't have to worry about Hugo Alnefelt being in there in a situation he's not ready for. I love Lagacé for being willing to be that goaltender in an emergency situation. We saw that 4 years back in Vegas as well. But in reality, he's not a top 2 NHL goaltender. And for Tampa, it's important to get Elliott back, and they start to get some games, back into the win column before we see some kind of a losing streak to start taking place for them, right? All right, there you go. You guys are all caught up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.